Girl Scout promise. On my honor, I will try to serve God and my country, to help people at all times, and to live by the Girl Scout law. And then we will do, our Girl Scout law. I will do my best to be honest and fair, friendly and helpful, considerate and caring, courageous, strong, and responsible for what I say and do, and to respect myself and others, respect authority, use resources wisely, make the world a better place, and be a sister to every Girl Scout. Awesome. We have a lot of people in here from State College area of Pennsylvania. That's awesome. Okay, so today we will be covering all 5 steps of the badge, which is great. We're super excited for that. The first requirement is investigation, which is probably about like hosting a party, kind of like a mystery party. So we're kind of doing that right now. So that one on your own as well. So after today, you will be able to know the secrets of from the world of Repelling as well. So first, like I said, step 1, we're having a party right now. So that one's checked off. But the second one, we're going to reveal reality. We're going to interview someone in forensics. So I have Miss Barbara, who already waved, on the call with us, and she is a retired FBI, what did we call it? A
special agent. Special agent.
Special agent, yes, a special agent. But Miss Barbara, you want to go ahead and maybe just introduce yourself?
Okay. As you'll see on the screen, my name is Barbara Ulrich, but that's not my FBI name. My FBI name was Special Agent Barbara Brown, and that's not a secret agent name. That was my maiden name, and when I started with the FBI, that's the name I used, and I continued it through my career. I'm married to an FBI agent, and we have one daughter who decided not to go into law enforcement. She's actually an event planner in Atlanta. So I was in the FBI for 26 years, and earlier in FBI standings, the career individuals had to have degrees in accounting or law, but then they decided that we need to be more diversified and have a variety of degrees and experiences. So now we accept degrees in accounting as well as law, but we have more diversified programs like people with teaching degrees, nursing degrees, yes, police officers, military people. So the only thing we ask is that you do have a bachelor's degree and 3 years of work experience. And my degree is in psychology. And so I feel I used my degree in my career quite a bit. So do we want to talk about what a day in a life is?
Yeah, so let's go to my next slide first. And why don't you tell us about this picture right here?
Okay, so the picture there is what I use on this is my badge that they give us when you retire, and they put your credentials in a frame with the badge that we actually carried. And then we have what they call service keys. And if you'll notice the key, it looks like a handcuff key, which it is. It's a symbol of a handcuff key. And that shows that I had 5, 10, 20 years experience in the FBI. So those are keys for each one. And you'll see it says Barbara Brown on it.
Tell us about these pictures first, and then we can talk about like the day in the life of a FBI agent?
Yes, that is the same picture on the wall behind me on the screen.
Yes, actually, so do you want to tell us about these pictures on this slide?
All right, so as far as my personal experiences when I worked in the FBI, I worked a lot of different criminal activities, which were property crime, drugs, gangs, organized crime, trafficking, smuggling, and then my ancillary duties, or the extra duty that I had in addition to working investigations. I was an instructor, and what I would do was teach law enforcement about some of the cases that I worked, and I was also on the SWAT team. So this is actually a training experience that we had while on the SWAT team, where we were repelling off of the Hotel Marriott downtown Atlanta. And I will say this is the first time I've ever repelled. I may be smiling, but I was really nervous. Later, we also did repelled off of water towers and other buildings, but we never used it when I was on the team for 5 years, or the 20 years I was in the FBI in Atlanta. They didn't use it in a rear scenario.
So what was the coolest thing that you repelled off of, or repelled out of, I should say?
I would say I also had an experience of repelling out of a helicopter, which they don't even allow the local teams to do that anymore. That's reserved for the hostage rescue teams. So I was down in actually at the Marine Corps base, and I made sure that I partnered up with a Marine because I figured he knew what he was doing and would keep me safe. So we buddied up, and we were actually, it's called spy rigging, where we're hanging out of a helicopter, and then we eventually, then you rappel down to the ground. So that was probably the most interesting SWAT experience I had. As far as the actual SWAT experience, I was part of the teams that made entry into the Talladega prison, where we rescued hostages that the prison inmates had taken. And so we were able to rescue 8 men and women that were workers at the prison. So that was an actual scenario that we worked with the local teams as well as the hostage rescue team out of DC. And that was the real last big experience I had on the SWAT team.
Wow. So do you want to tell us about a day in the life of a special agent?
Yes. So as I mentioned, these duties, being an instructor on the SWAT team, were ancillary duties, and my main responsibilities were to be an investigator. And so we have multiple experiences that we have to do community outreach, and that's so that you can develop informants or witnesses that can help you with your investigations. And then we investigate crimes that are committed in the community, and we're still involved in training. We have to make sure we can qualify with our weapon every year. We have to be physically fit, so we take a physical fitness test. And so the day in the life would be coming into the office and doing paperwork, which is not paperwork anymore. You're actually looking at computer files on your computer. You're in the process of interviewing people, you do surveillance, you meet with prosecutors and attorneys for the defendants, and you're in court quite a bit. But it's not like CSI or Law and Order. You don't finish in 1 hour and the case is solved. It may go on for months, and you coordinate with your local officers to help you make arrests. I will say that their job is more dangerous because they have to go out and do things in, either just the 2 of them or 1 individual police officer. Whereas an FBI agent, when we're investigating, typically we have a partner with us, and when we make arrests, we may have 8 to 10 people. So our job, I always give them credit because our job is safer than what theirs is. And then as we're going through these investigations, we have to gather evidence, and that's what we're going to talk a little bit about that today, as far as what we do besides computer files and paperwork. We also use forensics, and all the forensics you've ever heard of: fingerprints, footprints, handwriting analysis. We analyze computers, and we have specialists for all these positions. That's not something that I would do on my own. That would be a specialty. The polygraph examiner. There would be, there's DNA and tire prints, and just everything is used in addition to like a dog sniffing, a drug or bomb sniffing dogs. I've used those in my investigations. So there's a lot of forensic evidence that's collected during the course of an investigation.
Does anyone have any questions, or just either about what Ms. Barber has done? You physically raise your hand, or if you're not on camera, you can also raise your hand in the chat and I will unmute you.
I can continue. I could tell a story as long as we're waiting for someone to ask a question.
Let's see. Actually, I have a question from Sarah, and let's see. Hold on, I'm trying to unmute you, Sarah. Can you unmute? There we go. Hi, Sarah.
Hi. What's the most dangerous thing you've done?
I always felt safe when I was with my teams because I had confidence in what they were doing. And I would say that rappelling out of the helicopter was the most stressful training scenario. And then I would say then the entry into the prison was pretty stressful because we had to wait 10 days before we finally decided to go in.
So we also have some questions in the chat, like what college did you go to?
Okay, I was an Army brat, so traveling with my family, I ended up attending 4 different colleges, so it seemed like I was a problem student, but I wasn't. And I graduated from the University of Kentucky with my undergraduate degree in psychology. When I retired, I went to the Citadel and got my master's degree in social sciences. And now I'm involved in training law enforcement as well as a private investigator for the state of South Carolina and Georgia.
Oh. So I feel like those pictures kind of explain it on the slide behind you. Like, is there a better definition of what repelling means?
Yeah, you can see there's ropes tied around my waist, and there's actually someone, we had to rappel down, which means walk down the side of that wall of the building into a hotel room. And there was someone at the end of that rope in the hotel room that makes sure that you didn't go past the hotel room, and they could help bring you into the room. And then there's someone on top of the building that's also holding the ropes to make sure that you are secure.
So let's see. I feel like, so Jocelyn wanted to know what is the most stressful situation you've been in, but I think you answered that with your some of your questions. Addison wanted to know, how did you decide to be an FBI agent?
Okay, I was working in Florida with a program that worked with had juvenile offenders, and we were trying to keep juveniles from having a criminal record. And if they completed our program, the charges were dismissed against them. So in addition to working, I was going to school for my master's degree, and I learned through my fellow students that they were applying for federal jobs. And so I applied with several different agencies, which I would recommend to anyone. I mean, I applied with drug enforcement, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, even a forest ranger, federal special agent positions. And I was interviewed by Drug Enforcement Administration, also known as DEA, and also the FBI. And I was offered positions by both of them. And I thought it would be interesting work. I didn't realize that they were hiring a lot of women at the time because for years, women weren't allowed to be in federal law enforcement. So I decided I wanted to work a career I wanted to work drug investigations, which I had an opportunity to do that.
That's awesome. Some other ones are, did you get hurt any times badly or just small?
Not really. I mean, I've had a door opened into my face during a training exercise. So I had a big bruise on underneath my eye, that looked like a big story that I was in a fight with a bad guy, but that's not what happened. And then I would have the cuts and bruises from some of the training exercises that we were involved in, or, you know, running after someone and maybe I'd twist my ankle, but nothing serious. I've never been shot at. That's usually a question that people ask, is if you ever shot anyone or had someone shoot at you, and I haven't. But on most cases, because I worked violent crime, I did have to have my gun out during the course of an arrest.
So we're going to do these two last questions and then we're going to move on. So what was the most crimes you would deal with, or like what was the, I guess, stereotypical crime that you would run into the most?
I would say I was able to specialize in the different crimes that I wanted to work. So I mentioned I worked drug investigations. I also worked gang investigations. In Georgia, they were having a problem with Asian gang activity with gang members that fled New York and New Jersey area because they were being looked at. And so they came to Atlanta. So I would say that was the most crime that I worked during that time period. And then later, the trafficking and smuggling.
And was your uniform uncomfortable when you were rappelling? Or maybe just in general, like was your uniform just ever uncomfortable while working?
Well, we don't wear a uniform. FBI agents are supposed to dress professionally. So you look like you're going into an office. You know, for women, it would be a blouse and a skirt or pants, and you'd wear a jacket because you'd have to wear a jacket or a sweater to cover up the fact that you're wearing a gun. Most people are uncomfortable with seeing, you know, someone with a gun on their hip. So when you're going out to conduct an interview, you'd always have to have your gun, your badge with you, and your credentials to prove who you were. And you always have to be prepared for any situation that would occur. So we would wear traditional business clothing. If you're working drug investigations, you might be wearing a t-shirt and jeans because you're going to be out in the community with different people. That uniform you see, it's just for the SWAT team. And so that's just a SWAT t-shirt and pants with pockets to put extra gear in. So we don't wear a uniform like a police officer would.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Well, we're going to move on to our next activity since we are already 30 minutes in. We had a lot of great questions from Miss Barbara. So Miss Barbara's going to hang on with us. This activity we're going to be doing is, I hope that some of you all have been able to get these supplies. If not, it's okay. You can watch and then you can go back and do it later. We will be sending out an email that has the recording of this video. Plus, it will have a lot of resources that Miss Barbara also gave to us about the FBI and just other types of information about investigating as well. Because when I was planning with this Miss Barbara, she was just giving me so much information. I'm like, Miss Barbara, we only got 45 minutes for this. So you'll definitely be able to dive into more FBI type of things after this as well. So right now we're going to be doing a forensic chemistry ink chromatography with a coffee filter. So you'll see that I have a second camera. It says to Ashley Bearfield, so that's me. And what I have is we can use markers and we can also use water, or we can use rubbing alcohol. So I have both. So I already poured some water in this cup, and then I'm going to take some rubbing alcohol and pour it into the other cup. Okay. So we have those two cups, and then I took a coffee filter that's normally just like put up like this, and I just flattened it. And you can take any, I wouldn't say any type of marker, a marker that's not permanent. And you'll just take, you'll see on the coffee filter that there's like a line where the ridges are, or where they start. So you'll take that and you'll just take the line and go over and around it. Now later, and then the time, you can practice using different types of designs and maybe multicolors as well. So basically what's going to happen is we're going to take this and put it into the water like this. And the water is going to climb up and it's going to push the ink up the coffee filter. So it takes a little bit. So I'm going to put the green one in the water. And we'll see how that goes. And then I'll take a pink one. And I'll put that one in the rubbing alcohol. So it looks like my water one is working really fast. So Miss Barbara, did you ever work with like forensic scientists on like ink analysis or anything like that?
Not on ink analysis. I did have an investigation that we were trying to prove that an individual was an underage girl, and so it was difficult because she was from a foreign country. She was from Central America, and a small village is where she was born. So it was difficult to obtain like a birth certificate or a birth record. Some countries, they don't document like birth certificates like we do in the United States. And so they have a village record, and we're unable to obtain that record. So we learned that a doctor could come in and measure her bones to determine if she was under the age of 18. And so he measured her head and her legs and arms and hips, and was able to say that he believed she was an underage girl. And the reason that was important to us is that the sentence for the bad guy would have been increased if we could prove that. And that's what happened. We were able to prove it.
Wow. So that reminds me of like the TV show Bones.
Yes.
If anyone's seen that.
And the doctor that the examinations was used to just working with bones and not a live person. So it was something new for him as well.
Oh,
we
wow.
have a laboratory in West Virginia that's for our fingerprint analysis. And we also have other laboratories throughout Washington that use the computer analysis as well as DNA analysis, blood analysis. So we've had some people who worked in those positions as what we call support people and then later became agents. And so they had that experience behind them.
Wow. So some of the, I have a question. What do we have to do again? So with this exercise, what we're doing is we're just watching how it's basically like an ink analysis, how ink can climb up the coffee filter. So what we've done is we've taken water and rubbing alcohol. You can do one or the other depending on what you have in your house. And also you can use whatever coffee filter as long as you can see the marker. Thank you, Emma, for pointing that out. So yeah, you can do that. And then also you can use whatever color marker. I would just advise not to use a permanent marker. So it looks like the one that I had in water is moving really fast. Not sure if you all can see that one. Let's see.
Yeah, it looks green.
So yeah, so it moved up, and I think it's cool how like it's not getting into the water as well. Now this one, the pink one, is not really moving fast, and that's the one with rubbing alcohol. Here, sorry, I'm trying to find my camera. There we go. That one's not really moving fast. Does anyone else have any that they're doing right now that they can share?
That looks good, Shirley.
And Elizabeth. Let's see. Anyone else? Anyone in the chat? Oh, can I put the image on Spotlight? Yes, I can. Thank you for asking.
We have comments that the water is moving fast, but not the alcohol.
So it certainly is. And I'm wondering if it's because, let's see. Yeah, it's moving super slow, if you all can see that. And you can always try this out later as well with more colors. You can also try different designs. I've seen this done with like polka dots and it looks super cute. It's like little fireworks going off.
I know that Reagan commented that her black ink was turning purple.
Yes, so I did see a video on that as well, that it's not always purple. Sometimes it can be like a red. So like the darker colors like brown or gray, those will turn into different colors.
Oh, I like the comment that it's looking like a galaxy.
Something to experiment with. Yeah. Also a black shader. And then the pink one, it's finally starting to move. And maybe if we had rubbing alcohol that had more alcohol in it, like this one has only 50%, maybe if it was higher, it would be moving faster. But I don't know. It's quite interesting. And I have an abundance of coffee filters, so I might try this later on my own as well. So, okay, we're going to, I know this, oh, okay, let's see what Shirley says. I believe that the rubbing alcohol is a heavier liquid than water, but I could be wrong. That's something to think about. I think that could be right. I'm not exactly sure, but we'll see.
That's a good comment.
So I will include, yeah. So I have watched some videos on this, and I will include it in the email that I'm sending out later on this afternoon to the email that you all registered for this with. So those are going to be a lot of information in that.
It might answer some of the
be on
questions.
the lookout for that. Yes. So, all right, I hate to move on, but we need to. So as you can see that this one in these pictures right here, like it was a black marker, or maybe they layered blue and a red. So that's something that you can try as well. And this turned yellow. That's awesome. From orange to yellow. And to step 4 and 5, I'm going to take this one video off of Spotlight.
It looks like we might have some future special agents out here.
You can still see it, but yeah. It's like they know exactly what they're doing. I'm glad. All right, so our next slide, we're going to solve an investigation. So we're going to read this little paragraph right here first. And then we're going to talk about, so I will just read this out loud for people. It says, on the first day of the school year, a geography teacher was murdered. He was found in his classroom with many objects around him. The police had 4 suspects: the gardener, the math teacher, the coach, and the school principal. They all had alibis. So not sure if everyone knows what an alibi is. Ms. Barbara, can you explain what an alibi is? Or actually, I see Shirley has her hand raised.
Go ahead, Shirley.
Unmute Shirley. Can you talk maybe a little closer to the speaker? Like we hear you, but not really.
What an alibi is, or you want me to tell the answer?
I didn't really hear you still. I heard bits and pieces. Let's go to Elizabeth. Shirley, I'm sure you were correct, but we're going to go to Elizabeth.
I think it was the math teacher because he was holding a mid-year test and it's the beginning of school.
Oh gosh, you already got ahead of the game here. Well, I was asking, does anyone know what an alibi is? Do you know what an alibi, or Keziah? I see you raised your hand. Let's go to Keziah. Go ahead, Keziah.
I'm gonna say alibi is like their side of the story, or it's, I'm trying to see how to explain it, but when you question somebody, they're always gonna have an excuse or their reason or something.
Is that about right, Miss Barbara?
Yeah, that's good. That's what I would say, a story as to what you were doing during that time of the crime, so that you couldn't have been there when that crime occurred.
Gotcha, yeah. Mm-hmm. So the alibis were the gardener was cutting the bushes, the math teacher was holding a mid-year test, the coach was playing basketball, and the principal was in his office. So I know that some of you all have already decided who the killer is, but let's talk about the body language that we're seeing in this video or in this picture. So if we look at the gardener, what does the gardener seem like he's telling us with his body? Anyone want to answer that? Let's go to Claire.
He seems upset to be there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes,
like we took him away from his work.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, awesome. That's good. Let's see. Let's go to Juliana. Did you have your hand up, Juliana?
Mm-hmm.
What is the principal's body language saying to us?
Like he's worried.
Yeah. Yeah, like he's touching his watch.
It was like, time. I'm worried.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Anyone else? We're going to talk about the coach. Does anyone want to say what the coach is doing? Let's go back to Claire. I see your hand up again, so go ahead, Claire.
The coach is like, I think he's trying to do his best poker face. Like he's trying to look like he's not the killer. It's very serious.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's a stereotype for him because he's big and muscular?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. And then the last one, the math teacher. Does anyone want to say what he looks like his body language is saying? Okay, let's go back to Elizabeth.
He's like, I gotta go. I can't be here.
Yeah. He's avoiding it. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, I can't remember who it was, but, and also in that, you all have already said that it's the math teacher, which is quite obvious. And it's not even because of the picture, it was because of his alibi. So it was because according to his words, he was holding a mid-year test on the first day of school.
So that was good observations by
So
the
we definitely, yeah. So the observations were great. And then, like I said before, we're going to send out an email that there's going to be some more activities where you can do like more investigating games like this. This was just a super simple one, but there's definitely more out there that Miss Barbara has sent. So that's awesome. So that's the end of our badge work for today. Like I said, we'll be sending out an email. And thank you so much, Barbara, for coming on. This was
Thank you for having me, and I hope you all consider career.
absolutely. Barbara's email address within that email. So you'll be able to email her any questions. She's always been saying that she's more than happy to help out like this badge again. Maybe that she would be able to go more in depth as well. So please do not hesitate to reach out to Miss Barbara. So thank you all for joining, and I will be sending out that email later on this afternoon. So thank you all again.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Miss Barbara.
Okay.
Bye.